Hi, welcome back to Healing Hearts and Honest Conversations. I'm Maria,
Hi, I'm Veronica.
and we are on episode 7. So today we're going to talk about how we show up for ourselves.
Hmm.
So earlier today we were watching a video, and it was talking about how successful women really show up for themselves. So like financially, spiritually, emotionally, they kind of take care of business.
Yes.
Yeah. In all areas. And then the video talked about identifying what you really want. Like, yes, you show up for yourselves in all the things that are supportive on the outside. So financially, things look good. You're taking care of stress. You're taking care of bills. You're taking care of your work. You're successful at work, right?
Yep.
And so then the video went on to say, but how many of us women are really tired?
Yeah, like
Right?
me right now, I'm tired.
Yeah. So, how many of us would like to be like look at all the things on our table and be able to say, I would really like for you to take some of this
Yeah.
um, to someone dependable, and then how many of us would really like just to be held or be told like things are going to be okay or hey, I got this. So I think it was like the result of the video was just like both. So you can be successful and you can have these things and have it all together and be happy, but still want more.
Yeah, and I feel like it's okay to keep on wanting more because, if we then do we then start to settle
Right.
and stay stagnant? But it doesn't, and I try to interpret it. It doesn't mean that I have to keep on working and getting more jobs and another job and another job, right?
Right.
But I feel also that we have to look at like what voids we're trying to fill.
Right.
So like if we're successful, right? Because also the video was saying something about that we've been conditioned to praise and be independent and all that, and we fail to see like because we're in like our masculine energy, right?
Right.
If I kind of bring that up from other previous videos in regards to like intimidation and independence, right? That episode, I think it was 3. So do we then become unattracted to other people, but at the same time are insecurities still playing a part? Because if we are only dependent on ourselves, how are we going to allow anyone else to come in and fill some of those voids that we would like filled in order to, I don't know what you want to call it, complete us? You complete me. I don't know.
I don't know if it's complete. I think it's kind of like you can be happy about where you are, right? And you can be happy about how successful you are. But in terms of relationships, you can still like want more, or you could want like we have great friendships and we have
Yes.
a good circle of friends, but we still want to have that man or that guy next to us or to come home to or whatever it is.
Yeah.
In terms of our friend group, like we still talk about that, even though it's a group of very successful women. And so, like, on the surface, I don't want to say shallow things because I think like we own houses and cars and we have property and things like that. So it's not just being successful at work, but they've kind of built like their own like
Empire.
investments. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yes, they're very successful, but still they want this relationship or they desire this relationship.
Right.
But I think the video was really about being honest with yourself about
What we
wanting those things.
and also not only wanting, but like what do we need?
Right.
What do we need to and I also seen it more as like what do we need for like self-care purposes, like we're the ones putting out the fires, right? Whether it's at home and work, because again, we're very independent,
Right.
We don't have that partner that's going to kind of take off some of this load, right? So like I come home and I can only give 20%. Who's
Right.
going to give the other 80%? Well,
Right.
not my dogs, right? Because they're wanting me 100%, right? And if you have kids and they want your attention, or you have other things going on that needs your attention, like how do we care for ourselves? Yes, manicures, pedicures,
The surfacey stuff.
the surfacey stuff, but we're talking a little bit deeper, like how do we take care of us and look at the internal piece versus the external materialistic things? Because we know we're successful, we know we're ambitious, and we know that if we want something, we're gonna go out and get it and work for it, right? Because we're confident in that term. But then there's the insecurities that make us a little less confident when it becomes like taking care of us and allowing someone who is actually willing to take care of us.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of times some women and men tend to self-sabotage. Like I'm guilty of that. Like there's times where even in my previous relationship where I was self-sabotage, is like, let me keep testing you. Let me keep, and then years go by. Let me still keep testing you. Right. But it wasn't a him thing. It was a me thing. And I think that's what we fail is like, we really need to show up for ourselves in terms of like, what do we really need in order for us to be okay? Right. The external stuff, we can get a job, we can get, make money, whatever. That's to us, that's easy.
Right.
That's why we're so successful, because we're good at it. Right.
That's easy. Yeah.
But we want someone to kind of not only share the load, but just like we were talking in previous episodes, build that partnership, a foundation where it's just not all on us, that we're creating this together. Like I have my empire, you have yours, and then a partner comes in and it's like, I'm willing to build a empire for us together. Yes, we've had separate things before each other, but either we can combine or become successful in a different part.
Right. No, I think that's true. And I think that there is a certain amount of safety to be able to say that you have that with someone. Like somebody has my back, or somebody's going to be there if things go wrong, or someone's going to celebrate me when things go right. And I think like part of building that empire, like you say, with somebody is the safety of knowing that they're there, that they're dependable, reliable, and that things are gonna get taken care of. Even if I don't have the energy, like you said, to take care of it, that it will be shared, and that somebody else will have that energy. But I think like we talked about that sometimes it's hard for us to even identify what those things are that we want in the partner. Like, you want them to have, like we always say, like, I need them to have their shit together, but like breaking it down becomes a little bit more difficult. And then we talked about whether or not we're actually dating with intention. Like we have this solid picture in our head about what we're looking for. And really like what we're looking for, like not what social media tells us that we should have or things like that, but really what are we looking for to kind of, like you say, fulfill that void.
Yeah. And I also think too is like, we need to, like when we're creating our own empire and our own success, we do that with intention.
Yes.
But it's hard for us to put that in other places in our life.
Yeah.
And so I know you and I both challenge each other to like, hey, what is it that you want in a partner, right? And then you sent me yours and you're like, okay, it's your turn, Vero. And I'm like, shit, I didn't know I was going to do that. Right? And so, and of course it was at a time where I was busy doing something, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to step away from what I'm doing and think about this, because we've had plenty of time to throw out stuff and think about it. And because we had seen, or heard some podcasts here and there talking about like, dating with intention, right? And that's coming from a man, because a man that from that podcast was saying that women go out there and date blindly. Right. And when he explained all that, I'm like, oh my God, I so did that. It was like, I want a man that blah, 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 right? But then when I go out there, it's like, oh, let me see this one. And oh, let me meet this one. And none of them had what I really wanted. But then it was like, I wasn't really dating with intention. It was like, I don't even know why. Like what? Just for attention, entertainment? I don't know.
Right.
Just to feel like.
Not that that's bad, because if that's your intention for entertainment, then... And that's what he was saying was like, if that's your intention, to do it for entertainment, then that's your intention. But
Right.
if your desire is to have a long-term relationship, then okay, so he was saying that if your intention is to go out there and date for entertainment, then that's your intention and that's fine.
Right.
Because that's your intention that you have in mind. But if you want a serious relationship or long-term relationship and you're only dating entertainment or surface level stuff, or like you're on the dating app and you're like, oh, he's cute, or yeah, he has a job, I mean, like the surfacey stuff, then you're going to end up being disappointed because you're not searching for what it is that you want. So, you know, if you want someone, you know, to be a leader, or like you said, you want someone to make sure that they have friends or that they understand that you have friends and things like that, things that we've talked about, then you should have your list of intentions in mind as you go on a date or as you are searching for a date, like those things. And I think that made a really good point, because there is sometimes where I'm just like, I'll go. Like, but no intention. Like I have no kind of like, it's entertainment and not really that I intend this person has all of the qualities of which I would have a long-term relationship with.
Yeah. And going into the date with the intention of hoping that there would be a second date,
right,
and so on and so forth, right? And I also think too, like in our friendship group, because we share all these things, right? Our disappointments and our happy moments or whatnot. And it's kind of like the common denominator is like, we weren't going out there trying to date with intention or finding a partner with intention. We know what we wanted, you know, again, like you were saying, all surface level. And I think earlier we were talking about, like, I was sharing with you, like, Love is Blind, right? The show where people go and they're in these pods, but they don't see each other because we could be kind of vain and be like, oh, looks, if you're not attracted, then I'm not even going to bother to look if you have all these things that I want. Right. And I was telling you, I have to be attracted to somebody, right? Because the first thing I was like, there was one person who popped in my head and I was like, yeah, I wasn't attracted to this person. But I think there was, again, the whole, we tend to self-sabotage, like that 10 times, things that could be potential good things for us. I'm not saying that the person that I was thinking and I was telling you about was a good person for me, because they have their own baggage that they weren't willing to deal with. But it was like, I was finding when I was going out and dating that I was dating guys that were not available. Right. And yeah, it took some time. Like the first year was like, let me go out for fun, right? And see what's out there. And, you know, and for entertainment and attention and whatnot, just get some, you know, whatever, the instant gratification of whatever, right? Whatever makes me like, they're like, oh, you're beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Let's meet out. And then we have a good time. And, you know, and then it's like, oh God, he's not good for a second date because he has nothing I want. Right. He just looked good for the moment. But I think we tend to sabotage and not look beyond that, because with the whole, you know, people trying to get to know each other without even seeing what they look like and seeing if they can connect on a different level, I think that is like really good. And but obviously there's no way for us to do it unless we go on this TV show. But anyway, I just think that a society has, I don't know if it's like, I don't want to say program, but like things have been like, we have an understanding like looks are important, right? Because again, we want to be thinner. We want to be prettier. We don't want to, like, I don't want to show my gray hair, right? So then I'm going to dye my hair. Is it just for me or is it for other people? Because, right? So like, what are these things? If I'm doing it for me, great. But if I'm doing it for someone else, like, I got to look at like, why? Yeah. And we have to look beyond the surface. Now, if this person looks pretty on the surface, well, we know that looks change. As we get older, our looks come and go, right? And again, it depends on like, are you taking care of yourself or not? And the same thing, like, I feel like our bodies go through seasons. Like, you know, one year you might be thin and healthy. The next year you might be a little, you know, ready to hibernate, right?
Yes.
And that's when I'm warm and cuddly. But I think we need to, as not only just as women, but as society, look beyond that, because we're so surfacey because of everything that's on social media. We want the likes, we want the hearts, we want all this stuff to validate us, which it really isn't validating,
Right.
because it's just, there's no connection, or there's nothing that's behind that, right? There's like, I can thumbs up all these people, but it was just, oh, I like the video, that's it. I don't see nothing further than that. Right. So again, if we're just looking at looks, everything surface level, but I don't get the opportunity to know you otherwise, it means nothing. And I'm not going in with intention.
So how do we get to the hard part?
Shit. What's the hard? Oh, dating with intention,
being honest with ourselves about what we really want, right? So what we really want for ourselves, our lives, but also what we would like for the qualities that we would like for the other person to possess, like truly.
But I also think that one of the things we need to do is put down what void or voids are we filling, and what do we need in order to fill that void, because it may not even be that we need a person to fill that. It might be other things we need to work on ourselves. I just thought about that right now, because I'm a self-sabotager. You want me to sabotage? Invite me. But again, it goes with like trust issues, right? Like how do, like, and this goes all the way back to episode 1, is like, what do you bring to the table? Well, are we going to allow them to come to the table?
Right.
What are we going to trust them with? And it goes to like, could we trust another person to be part of our world, right? Part of our life, as to, can you even show up?
Right.
And then start building that trust where, okay, I guess you are dependable. Well, let's keep it going, instead of like, quickly they don't do something that we don't think is okay, and then we're like, cut them off, right? Yes. Chop them off at the legs.
Well, because I think in the success in business, that's not that you're mean enough to like chop people off, but if there's something going on that you don't like, you immediately stop it. And like, you get rid of it. You tell them like, no, we're not handling that way, or whatever. And so that is a good skill for setting things up in business. But it turns out not to be such a good skill in relationships. And so it's hard to like be like, okay, well, there's going to be a certain amount of, not that the person is going to make mistakes, because you expect that in business and personal, but like, you can't be as hard with that. Like, I'm going to cut that off because it's not serving me.
And I think that in my, like, as for me, that's something I need to continue to work on, because I'm like, don't make me waste my time with you, and you're done, right? And I didn't give that person the opportunity to show me more, because they may be a great person, and it may be like they're great for someone else and not great for me. Or it could be like, they could have been a great person for me, but I didn't give them that chance because there was something that I didn't like, or something they did that I was like, nope. And what I didn't think or don't think about, maybe now I will, is like, whatever they did or said, is that a deal breaker for me?
Yeah.
And this could be in any relationship, because I even see it with people who want to befriend me, or even current friends that I have, right? Because I have, I have a lot of friends. However, I only have a close-knit group that I spend a lot of time with, and I'm in constant communication with. That's not to say, that I don't care about those other people, but they served a purpose, or it's one of those friends that, I can check in 3 months from now, we can hang out, and it's almost like we picked up right where we left off, or they're just a friend from afar, and you're there to support each other. But not it's different when we have our close-knit group, where I can call and boom, if I need something, you guys are there, vice versa, right? And so I think that's when I go into dating, or, you know, and I'm sure there's people that do this too. You go into dating and you see it as, okay, here's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And if things don't go as planned, I also see it as like, if things don't go, because the other thing that some people will deal with or have a hard time with, which is what I do, is being able to be in control. Not necessarily a control person, but I like to have a sense of control of my situations, and not that I want a control person, because if I feel like I have to control somebody, then I'm not a happy person.
Right.
And that's not what I want to do. But sometimes I have these expectations and I want them to go in a certain way. And if it doesn't go a certain way, I'm just like done.
Right. Right.
So I kind of have to look further. And again, like I was saying, looking at what those voids are and what do I need in order to fill those voids. And is it a me thing, meaning more self-reflection, or is it something that another person, as a partner or whatever, friendship, whatever, that we can build together to fill those voids, right? Because people get lonely. Single people get lonely.
Right.
Even people in relationships get lonely. I know when I was in my relationship, there's a lot of times where I felt lonely, and I was still surrounded with so many people, including my partner, but I still felt lonely. But I had to, you know, obviously years later figured out like it was a me thing and not a them thing, right? But sometimes we realize it too late, where we could have already did the groundwork or did the work prior to not sabotage that relationship or those relationships.
Right. Right. I was thinking back when you said deal breakers, and I was like, do we know our deal breakers? Like, do we know for sure what your deal breakers are? And are they back to being like, are they have to do with like values and, you know, like qualities of the person, or are they back to being surfacey level?
Is smoking cigarettes surfacey level?
I don't know.
As soon as you said deal breaker, the first thing is I do not want someone who smokes cigarettes like on a daily, because one, that's something that really bothers me, and I feel like I'm suffocating. If the person doesn't even necessarily have to be smoking around me, but if I can smell it, I feel like I'm suffocating. So is that surfacey? Would you consider that surfacey?
I don't know.
Versus a deal breaker is like, you're not being honest with me. You don't even take the time to communicate.
Are those deal breakers?
Yeah, like if you're going to be a liar, like,
okay.
But like,
I think the honesty thing, yes, that would be like, of course you don't want to be with somebody who's going to be lying to you.
Right.
But I think like going back to like, how do we show up for ourselves? Because part of being very successful sometimes is also being very hard on yourself, right? Yeah. And so do we take that same expectation and put it on another person?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So that, and I guess, is that fair? Would we want someone to do that to us?
No, it's not fair. But in the moment, I think I'm right. Because I see it as, this is what I want and what I don't want. Again, because I said I'm a self-sabotager. And for those of you who are self-sabotagers, you could probably relate. Is like, as soon as there's something that I don't like, because again, I'm very independent. I have everything I need, right? But what is it that I want? But how hard am I working towards that? Right. Again, it comes back to, are we doing what we want with intention? Right. Or do I just hope one day it comes knocking on my door and says, here's your intention?
Yes. That would be so much easier. Well, as you can tell, this is going to be a more in-depth conversation, but I think we got to ask ourselves more questions,
right?
And try to search for more answers.
Yeah, and yeah. I think for those of you who are watching, I think a challenge would be what you and I challenged each other for, right? Was like, or you challenged me, right? Because you sent it to me. Was like, what are your intentions? No, what was it? What are your expectations?
What are your expectations? And then we talked about even taking it a step further. So what are the things that, So like, what are the things that you absolutely want in somebody?
Yeah.
And then what are the things that you're willing to negotiate? And I guess we should add like, what are the deal breakers? So maybe
Yes.
we'll end up with 3 columns.
Yep.
But knowing that some of the surfacey stuff might be things that we can negotiate on. That's what we
Yeah.
talked about. But yeah, be more like intentional in what we're deciding to do with our like personal lives or intimate part of us.
And let's be nicer to ourselves and
Yes.
try not to sabotage.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Until next time. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.